What's up, guys? The server slam just recently ended, and everyone kind of got a chance to, check out the changes they made to a lot of the classes and stuff. So I thought I'd do a sit down and go over all the Druid abilities and passives on the skill tree and kind of talk about what I like about them or what I don't like about them, what they might be good for. There are quite a lot, so I don't want this video to go too long, but I want to touch on each one, kind of, talk about what I like about them and stuff like that. So let's hop right into it. First one up, Earth Spike. I know a lot of people liked this one. Personally, I thought it felt good to use, but I thought Wind Shear just kind of did everything it did better. The passives behind it, Earth Spike has a 10% chance to stun. It's kind of whatever. You can fortify with Earth Spike, but only when the enemies are stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. And then summon a second Earth Spike when hitting an immobilized or stunned enemy. I mean, I think it feels fine. It does 16% damage, generates 10 spirit. Wind Shear generates 12 spirit, does 17% damage. The lucky hit is a little higher on her spike, but personally, if I had to pick a ranged elemental ability, I really like Wind Shear. I can't state enough how much I like this ability. I think it'll be really good mid and later game when you're using a basic skill along with Storm Strike, which we'll get to in a second. The nice thing about Wind Shear, it's ranged and it pierces through all mobs. It does not stop at the first mob. The first upgrade, 20% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 4 seconds. Vulnerable is an amazing damage boost. Pretty hard to come by, depending on your build. So this is really nice. And then the 2 nodes, Fierce Wind Shear. 5% movement speed for 5 seconds, stacking up to 20%. This is, I thought, was really underrated by a lot of people. This is really nice early game when you're trying to move through dungeons when you don't have your mount yet. I thought this made my character feel so much faster. But generally speaking, move speed is always a good thing in ARPGs and stuff like that. This felt really good, super easy to keep up. And then Wind Shear grants 3 additional spirit for each enemy hit beyond the first. Another great option. I know a lot of people struggle with spirit early on. If you get, multiple mobs lined up, you get 5 mobs behind the first one you hit. That's another 15 spirit right there. I think Wind Shear is extremely good. I really liked this skill. The next skill is Storm Strike. Another amazing skill. This just has so much built into it. They nerfed the spirit gen down to 14 instead of 15, which kind of hurt a little bit, but yeah. The fact that it gives you 25% damage reduction for 3 seconds anytime you swing with it is extremely strong. A lot of people, you'll realize a lot of people get a lot of like damage reduction, fortify, that kind of stuff. Extremely good. Storm Strike has a 15% chance to immobilize. This is kind of whatever. Mainly I use this in combination with Landslide, which I'll get to in a bit, but this is kind of hit or miss. It's a nice little bonus. Storm Strike chains to 2 additional targets. It's okay. If you're clearing with this early on, you can definitely take it. But personally, Storm Strike has a 50% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Same thing I said about vulnerable before. Vulnerable is extremely good. And this is basically up permanently. So Storm Strike, very nice. Claw. I think Claw feels fine. The thing you'll notice with Claw and Maul is it's extremely hard to beat Storm Strike. Storm Strike is just that good. I think Claw and Maul are both fine. But again, Storm Strike is just so good. The first node on Claw does give you 10% attack speed to Claw, which is pretty nice. Werewolf generally is going to be about attacking pretty quickly. Claw has a 10% chance to attack twice. That can, proc some extra stuff, get you extra spirit. And then Claw applies poisoning damage. There is, a lot of poisoning stuff with the werewolf. So it has synergy there. But again, I really just thought Storm Strike was really good. But Claw felt pretty good. Maul, they buffed the usability of Maul. I thought it definitely felt better. Again, it's still kind of hard to figure out when to use it. Like, it generates 14 spirit, which is the same as Storm Strike. Claw only generates 10 spirit. So if an enemy is hit by Maul, fortify for 2% of your base life. I mean, yeah, it's nice, but there's much better and easier ways to gain fortify, as opposed to just left clicking. Maybe early on, this is not bad for fortify. Maul has a 20% chance to knock down. That's all right. Increase the range and radius of Maul 25%. I think you're really going to choose this if you're going to pick Maul. It just makes the skill feel so much better on top of what they did with it. So yeah, Out of all the basics, I really liked Storm Strike for the melee, and I really liked Wind Shear for the ranged. So let's move on down to the core skills. We'll go over the skills first, then I'll check the passives. So Lightning Storm, this actually got buffed, believe it or not. I think Lightning Storm is pretty solid. I'll be honest, I think all the core skills are actually really good and have their own build you can build around with it. I was really impressed with all of them. I really, really like them. Lightning Storm feels really good for AoE and clearing out monsters. I'll go over the passives first because the first one is the most important one. When you get this, basically, if you stand still and you channel Lightning Storm, you gain up to 5 stacks, which just is how many lightning bolts you're summoning at a time. This makes it so that you only have to, once you channel all the way up to 5, you can then go 4 seconds before hitting it again and maintain those stacks, which is really, really good. Huge quality of life. This one gives it so you can go up to 6 instead of just 5. And this one gives you a small % chance to immobilize enemies. You're almost always going to choose Raging Lightning Storm personally. But yeah, Lightning Storm felt really good for AoE clearing. Now, I actually used this on Ashava, not Katava, wrong game. And because the hitbox was so big, you were able to constantly hit with all the lightning strikes. So that felt really good. Against smaller enemies or even normal bosses, you don't hit too many of them. You can definitely hit like 3 or 4 decently, consistently, but sometimes I'd only hit 1 even though I was using 6 lightning strikes. So single target, it can be a little rough, but for AoE, this feels amazing. I thought Lightning Storm felt great. Tornado. Tornado took a huge hit on its lucky hit, but that's because every single tick of Tornado that it does can proc lucky hit. Some people really liked Tornado baseline. I personally do not like Tornado until you get an aspect that causes it to chase after enemies. Then I think Tornado feels amazing. Baseline Tornado, personally not a fan. It's okay. I think there's just better options. Every time you cast Tornado, you have a 20% chance to spawn additional Tornado. Awesome. Every 5 tornadoes, you get an extra one. Pretty nice. Enemies hit with Tornado, 10% chance to become vulnerable. Again, we talked about how good vulnerable is. Primal Tornado, enemies damaged by Tornado are slowed. This is a guaranteed slow too. It stacks up to 40%. So every time you hit, you apply a slow. Really, really, really nice. I need to do a little more testing on this, but whenever you are fighting a boss, they have a bar, because they can't be crowd controlled, that fills up whenever you try to apply crowd control. If you get a ton of tornadoes out and you're constantly applying slow, this fills up their bar quite quickly and then knocks them down, which is really, really good. Pulverize, a lot of people I'm sure tried out Pulverize. The big thing with Pulverize is when you get the aspect that basically doubles the damage and makes it huge AoE, it creates a shockwave which can double hit one target and then it shoots it out forward in a straight line. Really, really fun. And mainly because of its first passive, where it causes it to overpower 12 seconds after you remain healthy. They increase the usability of this, which is really, really nice now. You don't lose the stacks until you overpower. Feels really, really good. I think Pulverize is like okay baseline. It's not bad. It's got great AoE. It feels good to hit a bunch of mobs at once. But you're really going to want the overpower to feel good and then the aspect on top of it. Enemies overpowered by Pulverize are stunned. Not bad. I personally would prefer Primal. Enemies hit with Pulverize deal 20% reduced damage. Bear is all about reducing that damage taken. I think this is great with it. Pulverize felt really good to use. Shred, they kind of increased the usability on Shred as well. I think Shred feels great, especially once you get here, the enhanced Shred. The bonus 30% attack speed just feels so good. It makes it feel really, really good. The Shred's third combo attack is larger and applies an additional 51% poisoning damage over 5 seconds. I think it's good early game because the other option is Shred's second and third attack also perform a dash. In addition, Shred's critical strike damage is increased. You're not going to be critting as much early. The dashes do feel good on it, but I think the poisoning feels really, really good early before you get a lot of stats to kind of buff that up. But yeah, Shred felt really nice with that attack speed, the healing. It felt really good. This plus Storm Strike, you can the spirit cost on Shred is not for each attack, it's for all 3. So you don't actually have to spam first attack, second attack, third attack. You can do first attack, Storm Strike, second attack, Storm Strike, and it only costs 35 for the whole thing. So really, really good. Landslide, this is what I used to level with. It took I think nearly 30% reduction in damage, and it is still by far in my opinion, the best leveling ability. It feels really, really good, mainly because of the passives on it. First one, after landslide damages enemies 4 times, the next hit will immobilize. I almost don't even notice this because landslide just one-shots enemies, so this is kind of whatever. Raging landslide, when you strike an immobilized or stunned enemy, an additional pillar of earth is formed. This is okay, but primal landslide, this thing is insane. Anytime you immobilize or stun an enemy, you gain a tear emote. Now, if you realize, this is not just for landslide, this is in general. So if you use the poison creeper ability, it will mobilize everything around you and just give you a ton of tear emote stacks. And then you use landslide on like elites and bosses, and you do guaranteed crit with 40% crit damage on top. And then bosses also have a chance to grant a tear emote. Landslide felt extremely good. Like I said, I really liked all the core skills. Going over the passives real quick. Heart of the Wild, max spirit increased. You're not going to use this unless you're using Melted Heart of Selig, but you do need to put 1 point in to move into these in the back. Basic skills generate more spirit. This got nerfed. It's okay, you know, probably useful for leveling and stuff, or if you don't have any other points. Core skills cost more spirit but deal more damage. Really nice passive. You're not going to probably take this early on, but later in the game it'll be really good. We have close enemies. You have increased crit chance, you know, not bad, pretty good. While you're in Werewolf, get some move speed and for 3 seconds after. And then damage reduction while in Werebear. So these are all, you know, these are not bad for early game passives, pretty good. You're probably not going to take them early, you know, or, you know, they're good for early in the tree, but not too game changer or anything. But, you know, they're not bad. All right, going down to the defensive tree. Earthen Bulwark, probably just your best all-around defensive. It does only last for 3 seconds. There is an aspect to make it last 6 more seconds, but it's really nice. The big thing that feels really good with it is when you get the Unstoppable. For people that don't know, for Unstoppable, whenever you get CC'd, you can use an ability while you're CC'd to remove the CC. So you don't just have to have this up before you get CC'd. So I think that feels really good with it. Decent cooldown, 16 seconds. Innate, Rock Shrapnel flies outward when Earthen Bulwark is destroyed. This is kind of okay, you know. I think you generally are going to probably take this one early on to get your Fortify up. Honestly, you're probably not going to take either later game, but I prefer the Fortify one. Fortify feels really good. But yeah, Earthen Bulwark felt really solid. Cyclone Armor. Now, this got nerfed by 50%. This was a 20% non-physical damage reduction. And then there was an aspect to also apply to physical damage reduction and then your party, which is extremely good. That being said, it's kind of hard to justify putting this on your skill bar. There are builds where you definitely have an open slot and you can totally take this. I felt kind of underwhelmed by it. The active on it is not very good either. It doesn't do a lot of damage. The knockback is whatever. This slows enemies when they get knocked back. This didn't work as well as I thought it would. Every 10 seconds, you get 30% damage reduction for 2 seconds. Not super great. Yeah, I wanted this to feel much better, but I will say it does stay on you until you take damage. But yeah, this overall, I was really liking Cyclone Armor before they nerfed it, and now I'm kind of on the fence about it. I think it's fine, especially if you get the aspect, or if you just want to throw it on your bar and you have an extra spot. If you get a +1 Cyclone Armor, that's fine. Enemies knocked back become vulnerable. I know I said vulnerable is important, but this has to knock back the enemy. So yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with Cyclone Armor. Again, I think it's fine if you just get a +1 or you get the aspect, throw it on your bar. But yeah, I think there's just better skills now. Mainly, I'll jump over here real quick. Because of Debilitating Roar got really buffed. 70% damage reduction, or nearby enemies deal 70% less damage, which is even better because if you're fighting something like Ashava and you put this on, everybody's taking 70% less damage. Debilitating Roar, extremely good now. And when you put more points into it, the cooldown goes down. The first one gives you Fortify, which is really, really good. This one is a slow for 65% slow for 4 seconds. That's a huge slow on monsters. And then also heals you for 4% of your maximum life each second. So 16% healing over 4 seconds. Extremely good. Debilitating Roar, really liked it. Huge AoE, feels really, really good. I really like this skill. Might have overbuffed it, so we'll see. Bloodhowl, personally a really big fan of Bloodhowl as well. I use this a lot in the first beta, because whenever you're running through and you're constantly killing stuff, you get this right here. Kills reduce cooldown of Bloodhowl by 1 second. You're just constantly using this, and it feels really, really good. Because of the things behind it, Bloodhound also generates 20 spirit. So you're just running through, killing stuff, clicking this, you know, spirit's a little rough early game on Druid. This will constantly be giving you more spirit. And then even late game, you can swap over to Bloodhound, increases your attack speed by 15% for 4 seconds. Bloodhound, great skill, really liked that. Bloodhound, Debilitating Aura, Earthen Bulwark, really like all these. Cyclone Armor, kind of iffy on, but yeah, defensively feels really good. Passives, increase your non-fizz resistance, so this gives you elemental resistances. You know, if you don't have places to put points, you kind of toss them in here. Vigilance, 5% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill, or 15% at max. Pretty solid, especially if you're rotating defensive skills, or if you're constantly killing things and you're clicking Bloodhound. You have like 6 seconds of 15% damage reduction to click Bloodhound again. I really like these, pretty good. So overall, so far, I really like the Druid tree. Solid stuff. Now, this entire section is specifically just companions. So companions received quite a large buff to their active damage. So if you look at like wolves, there's a passive portion and an active portion. A couple of them got tripled in damage. One of them got doubled in damage. They did nerf one of the aspects that was giving pets a huge amount of damage. So it kind of balanced it out. I think people were saying it ended up roughly being a 20 to 25% damage increase when included with the aspect. But without the aspect, it's a huge buff. Now, I know a lot of people like companions. I'm kind of iffy on companions. I think they, well, for example, the wolves can actually die, and I thought they were dying a little more often than I think they should have. I'm not sure if they nerfed all minions when they nerfed the necro minions or what, but I was a little underwhelmed by how often they were dying and taking damage. There's ways to fix this. You can make it so Bloodhound also heals them and stuff like that. But there's tons of wolf aspects, turn them into werewolves, storm wolves, things like that. Overall, I think it's pretty solid. The things behind it: wolves deal 20% increased damage to immobilize, stun, slowed, or poison enemies. This works well with the poison creeper, which we'll get to in a second, keeping up poison on enemies. When you crit, your wolves gain 20% attack speed. That's not bad. And then lucky hit, your wolves have up to a 10% chance to fortify you for 5% of base life. It's okay. There's better ways to get fortified. Not bad though if you need something. I had a couple issues with the wolves. Mainly if you go to click the active skill and the wolf isn't like right next to the mob or around a corner or something, it won't jump on it, and you have to like kind of keep spamming the skill or like try to get them in range. The usability is a little rough. Pets in general across Diablo 4 are a little wonky. The AI isn't the greatest, but I did like the other two pets more. Wolves, I think, will feel really good the more aspects you get and stuff like that. But yeah, Poison Creeper, by far my favorite skill out of the companions. Extremely high damage, great AoE. Also, because of the ones behind it, the first one, Poison Creeper's immobilized duration is increased by 1 second. You know, that's kind of whatever. But this one right here, Poison Creeper active poisoning duration is increased by 3 seconds. Now, sometimes this would spread out the damage. So this says 90% over 2 seconds. This doesn't do 90% over 5 seconds. No, this adds on 45% damage per second. So we're looking at 3 extra seconds, which is, what is that? 135% damage plus the 90%, 225% damage over 5 seconds. Extremely good. I really liked this. Felt great. We also have Brutal Poison Creeper. Your crit chances increased by 20% against enemies strangled. This is okay. You know, you get the 1 second extra strangle on top of the 3 seconds. But yeah, this feels really good early game before you get a lot of stats. You just walk up to a pack, click this, everything's dead. I really liked Poison Creeper. And then also the passive on it, it'll just basically keep up poison on a target while you're fighting them, like a single target. So really liked Poison Creeper. Ravens, it says it does a lot of damage. The problem is the monster has to stand in there for 6 seconds, which, you know, isn't that big of a problem. I think, you know, when you're going to companion build and you're using all these abilities, you understand that. For just generally, it was fine to just click it. I wish it was maybe like half the duration, over 3 seconds would feel a little bit better. But I think ravens, they can't die like wolves. You know, they just float around. They do a little damage once in a while. I think ravens would probably be like in the middle for me. I think it was fine. You have 5% crit chance against enemies for 6 seconds after they're hit by ravens. Not bad. We have 2 additional ravens periodically attack enemies. This is pretty good with the shepherd's aspect, where it increases the damage of your core skills based on how many pets you have. So this was not too bad. Enemies inside the swarm of ravens activated become vulnerable for 3 seconds. Not bad. But yeah, overall, I think the companion skills are better. They weren't doing as much damage as I thought they would, but it's definitely an improvement. But again, Poison Creeper is a top one for me. We have Nature's Reach. Deal increased damage to distant enemies, double this bonus if they're CC'd, basically. I think this is fine. I think it's gonna be pretty hard to fight distant enemies as a druid. Generally speaking, you're gonna be up close regardless of your build. Even with the ranged builds, like Tornado and stuff, you're probably gonna wanna be closer. I think this is an okay passive. Clarity, gain 2 spirit when transforming into human form. This is okay. The one place where it becomes really strong is when you're using Shred. Basically, you can Shred with your first attack, turn into a werewolf, and then use Storm Strike. You'll go into human form, and then when you do the second part of Shred, you'll go back into werewolf, and you just keep alternating like that. This gives you 6 spirit every time, 6 extra spirit basically whenever you click Storm Strike in between each Shred attack. So that's where that shines, and it feels really good. Call of the Wild, if you're going companion build, this is extremely good. 30% bonus damage to your companions. Very, very good. All right, let's keep moving here. So these, I don't even know what this category is called. These abilities, honestly, are kind of underwhelming, except for Trample. We'll start with Trample, actually. Trample got an absolutely huge damage buff. Trample feels really good. Who doesn't love a movement cooldown? It does huge damage, even more damage if it knocks an enemy into terrain, and then the first node behind it, even more damage on a single target. Trample feels amazing. Trample, definitely the highlight of this category by far. Casting Trample grants Fortify, Casting Trample grants Spirit. Great backups behind them. I really liked Trample. Trample felt amazing in the beta. Hurricane, there's a lot of memes about Hurricane. I think the thing people have to realize with Hurricane is, barring any weird interactions, this is not a damage skill. This is a utility skill. If you look at behind it, the first one is enemies who are damaged by Hurricane are slowed. So this keeps up a pretty decent slow. Hurricane is a chance to make enemies vulnerable, and then enemies affected by Hurricane deal 20% less damage, which is a lot of damage reduction. Hurricane, I don't want to get too much into Hurricane, but generally speaking, it's just not a damage skill. Don't look at it like that. Look at it like a utility skill. The unfortunate part is its Lucky Hit, I believe, is over the entire duration. You can only proc Lucky Hit once. So yeah, Hurricane, I think is fine, but yeah, it's a utility skill. It's not really damage. Again, unless there might be some wonky interactions with some aspects, but that needs to be tested on live. Boulder, Boulder is okay. There is an aspect to make it a core skill, but it costs 60 spirit. I think the idea with Boulder would be like, you walk up to an elite mob, you use Boulder to push them near a wall, and then you trample and push them into a wall. I think that's like the best case scenario for it. I think if you have a bunch of mobs lined up and you Boulder into them, it feels okay. It's not bad. I think it's kind of cool. When Boulder reaches the end of its path, enemies hit are slowed. If Boulder overpowered, enemies are stunned. You can make Boulder overpower through provocation and like some werebear stuff. But while you have any Fortify, Boulder has 20% crit chance, or Boulder's crit chance is increased 3% each time it deals damage. Again, I think Boulder was like, okay, I'm not really sure which builds you'd put it on. You probably would use it more for like the CC and moving mobs around than anything else. But yeah, Rabies. Rabies is a tough one. I didn't use it too much. I've seen mixed reviews on Rabies. I think a lot of people are kind of underwhelmed by it in terms of the damage. I think it's a cool idea. You walk up to a mob, you click it, and then it will spread the rabies to nearby targets, which is really cool. You can have the rabies damage get increased over the lifetime, and then rabies deals its total poisoning damage in 4 seconds instead of 6, which I assume does not, negatively affect this. I don't think you would ever choose this, especially because the other option is rabies spreads faster. I think rabies is a cool idea and concept, but maybe I think what would be cool about rabies if you could put a large poison on the target, and then whenever you used rabies on a target, it would carry over the poison from the main target to all the surrounding enemies, kind of like a proliferation. That would be really, really cool. I don't think that's how that works. I think it only spreads the rabies poison. Not sure, but if they can make it work like that, if you use rabies on a target, just, spreads that poison to all our targets, now we're talking. But otherwise, rabies was kind of, a lot of passives here. I'll try to go through these kind of quick, but mending, werebear form, you receive 5% additional healing. That's okay. Provocation, when you remain in werebear form for at least, this is 20 seconds maxed out, your skill will overpower. It's okay. It's pretty long. If you click pulverize while you have the pulverize overpower up and this up, it eats both of them. So it's, kind of hit or miss. I think the storm passives are okay. Your storm skills have up to a 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds at max range. Not bad. Storm is the one that has all the vulnerable pretty much to keep up. Vulnerable, really good, like we talked about. Charged atmosphere, you're only ever going to put 1 point in this as a travel node to get back here. Pretty underwhelming. It's every 12 seconds you get 1 lightning bolt. Not very good. We'll go over here next. Endless Tempest, 15% duration on Hurricane and Cataclysm. It's okay. Nothing to write home about. Not bad if you're doing stuff with it to get higher uptime on both of those. Bad Omen, up to a 30% chance when dealing damage to vulnerable, immobilized, or stunned enemy. Lightning Bolt also hits dealing damage. I think this was okay. I think it's good in a Lightning Storm build. It was kind of okay with Tornado because Tornado got such a huge hit on its lucky hit chance. I think Lightning Storm creates a ton of different like lightning bolts and effects, so I think that's where it's going to shine the most. And then Electric Shock, dealing lightning damage, a chance to immobilize for 3 seconds. Target's already immobilized, increase the lightning damage. I think this is really solid with Lightning Storm. Earth skills deal increased damage to slowed, stun, immobilize from knockback enemies. You can see a pattern with Earth skills. While you have Fortify for over 50% of your life, your Earth skills deal increased damage. Really solid. You're always going to be fortified, so that's just free damage. Critical strikes with Earth skills fortify you. Pretty nice way to gain some fortify as an Earth build. So I think the Earth section is quite solid overall. Now we get down to these. These are a little interesting. Poison enemies are slowed by 8%. Okay, that's fine. Critical strikes with werewolf skills deal percent of their base damage as poisoning damage over 4 seconds. Not bad, you know, it goes with the poisoning theme. The thing with this is there is a unique that makes it so your storm skills act as werewolf skills. And in theory, this should work to where like, so Lightning Storm and Tornado would be able to poison your target, which leads into Envenom. Poison enemies take 30% additional critical strike damage. If you constantly have a poison up, this is a lot of crit damage. Might just be the single strongest node on the tree if you have a high crit chance, right? But yeah. Okay, try to get through these. Ultimate skills, we could not test them in the Server Slam, but I did test them in the previous betas. Petrify. I think Petrify was all right. All the alt skills got their cooldowns reduced, which was pretty nice. Yeah, I think all the alts are a little underwhelming on Druid. There's some interesting things you can do with it, but basically Petrify is okay. Petrify's effect duration increased by 1 second. Killing an enemy affected by Petrify grants 25 spirit. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if like this was like killing an enemy reduces Petrify cooldown by 1 second, then you could like combo it with this. Or I don't know. I think Petrify is like okay. You do get better effect on a boss, but yeah. Cataclysm. I think Cataclysm was also okay. I think there's some spirit boons that'll like help you keep this up more, and I think Cataclysm could have pretty high uptime, especially with its high lucky hit chance. Cataclysm's duration is increased by 2 seconds. Lightning strikes make enemies vulnerable. The points behind a lot of these ultimates feel pretty underwhelming. Cataclysm, I think, was like fine if you're going for like a Lightning Storm build. The last ultimate we'll get to, you understand why these all kind of feel fine too, but I think it was good for like clicking it and you like create a bunch of lightning. It didn't feel like it was doing a lot of damage. I don't know if it was just random lightning strikes and random tornadoes that end up just missing targets, but it didn't feel like it should do as much damage as I wanted it to. Lacerate, another one that felt pretty underwhelming in terms of damage when I clicked it. Each time Lacerate deals a crit, heal for 3% life. Lacerate's initial strike is guaranteed to crit. It deals 150% damage. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I don't really have too much to say about Lacerate, but I wasn't super big fan of it. Lastly, Grizzly Rage. Shapeshift into a dire werebear for 10 seconds, gaining 20% bonus damage and 20% bonus damage reduction. And the damage bonus is increased by 3% each second while in this form. Killing extend the duration by 1 second up to 10 seconds. So baseline, you could be into this up to 20 seconds, gaining 3% damage each second, which is 60% bonus damage for a total of 80% bonus damage. You're starting to see where this is going, right? Now, the problem is when you switch into Grizzly Rage, you could only use skills designated as Werebear. So that means it'll put all the Werebear skills on your bar, but you cannot use a Storm skill, an Earth skill, a Werewolf skill. Unless you have like that unique I talked about earlier, where it would make like your Earth skills perform as Werebear skills, or your Storm skills perform as Werewolf skills, because there's also an aspect that changes this from a bear to a werewolf. So instead of like dire werebear, it's dire werewolf, which then you can use storm and werewolf skills. But with this, you can use bear and earth skills with the right aspects. You are unstoppable while Grizzly Rage is active. Unstoppable is really good. And you gain 4 to 5 per second while it's active. So this, I think, also just like outshines every other ultimate. If you're going to take an ultimate skill, you're going to take this. But yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed with most of the ultimates. We'll see, because they did reduce the cooldowns. And again, there are the spirit boons. But yeah, I'll do another video on the spirit boons, so make sure you check that out. Going over the passives, let's go up here. The nature magic skills deal increased damage to elites, just free damage. Elites are basically anything that isn't just a normal mob. Bosses count as elites, things like that. Nature magic skills consume spirit, heal you for 1% of your life, going up to 3%, not bad. Nature magic skills deal increased damage, triple this bonus if an earth skill is the next skill after storm skill, or vice versa. So it kind of incentivizes you to go back and forth on storm and earth. It's a little hard to do because a lot of the builds kind of specialize on one type, but there are multiple things that kind of, want you to go back and forth. So I think this is pretty good. Otherwise, it's at least 6% damage. Natural disaster, earth skills deal more damage to vulnerable enemies, which basically earth skills don't really apply vulnerable. So they're trying to get you to use a storm skill to apply it, which leads into the node behind it. And then storm skills deal increased damage to stunned, immobilized, or knocked back, which storm skills don't usually do those things. So they're trying to get you to alternate. I think it's a cool idea. It's a little rough in some areas, but can be quite abused in other areas. So we'll see how those turn out. The rest of the passives in the ultimate tree are, I hate to say, pretty underwhelming. We started pretty strong in the druid tree, but it gets kind of like underwhelming as we go. When a shape-shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals damage. Again, it's trying to get you to go back and forth between the two forms, which you're gonna probably just stay in one most of the time. Shape-shifting fortifies you. There's plenty of better ways to get fortify. Shape-shifting werewolf or werebear gain reduction. And this is not if you stay in the form. You have to like leave the form and go back into the form. So a lot of the time you're just going to stay in one form. I like the idea behind trying to incentivize you to go back and forth. Maybe something will pop up there. But yeah, we talked about fortify. This is like a whole fortify tree. Increased amount of fortify you gain from all sources. Not bad. Whenever you're CC'd, you get fortify. Not too bad. Help protect you when you get crowd controlled. Chance to get fortify when you're struck. Sure, okay. Reduce the duration of CC on you, triple this effect when you have a lot of fortify. I think this is an okay little tree if you don't really have other points to put anywhere else. I think it's pretty solid. Last but not least, we'll go over the Keystone passives. We have not been able to test these out, but we can kind of infer a little bit on how they work just by going over them. So again, I haven't got to try these, so we'll just go over them real quick. Gain 20% additional maximum life while in werebear, and for 3 seconds after leaving werebear, while healthy, deal 30% increased damage. I think it's pretty good overall for werebear build. I'm not entirely sure how overpower works. I think it does damage based on your life as well, like your life and fortify. So I think this is really good if you plan on using overpower. Pretty solid, which you're probably going to do in werebear. The werewolf passive is every 6th werewolf skill hit critically strikes and deals 60% increased damage. It's okay. I think if you have a way to like maybe attack really, really fast as werewolf, and you're constantly like cycling this and getting it to proc, I think it's a cool idea. Especially, the passive that whenever you crit, you apply poison as a werewolf. I think that could have some use there. The werewolf stuff overall felt a little underwhelming compared to everything else. I liked all the builds except werewolf felt like it needed some work. After being a werewolf for 2.5 seconds, gain 20% attack speed for 15 seconds. Werebear for 2.5 seconds, deal 20% damage. This one's pretty solid. You can see there's like one of each type, and then there's like a combo in the middle. Same for the nature skills. I think the werebear one looks good. The dual one looks good, and the werewolf one was kind of underwhelming. Perfect Storm. This actually got nerfed without us even having to be able to play it. It's, again, I haven't tested it, but it's pretty bad on paper, I think. Really underwhelming. This is only on cast. So when you cast an ability, you just get 1 spirit and then deal increased damage. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Mainly because Earthen Might exists, and there's an aspect that allows you to apply this to your storm skills. And Earthen Might is might be one of, if not the top keystones across all classes. Extremely good until, unless we find out it's nerfed in some way. Basically, you have a lucky hit chance to restore all your spirit and make all your attacks 100% crit chance for 5 seconds. this chance is increased by if you crit and if the target is CC'd. So Earthen Might looking to be one of the best. And then the other extremely good Keystone in general, Nature's Fury. Casting an Earth skill has a 20% chance to trigger a free Storm skill of the same category. In addition, casting a Storm skill has a 20% chance to trigger a free Earth skill of the same category. I don't know if you like have to have the ability like activated. So like if you click Boulder, I don't know if you need to have a point in Hurricane or if it'll just automatically cast it. Does it work on ultimates? I would assume no. And then that also means you'd have to put a point in. That's why it won't work on ultimates, because you can't just like click Cataclysm and then have a chance to proc Petrify. There's some aspects that make this kind of go crazy where it can, whenever you do proc this, you reduce your cooldowns by like 8 seconds baseline. So there's some pretty interesting builds out there for this. But I've been talking long enough. I didn't want this to go too long. Unfortunately, it went a little bit longer than I wanted. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, make sure you ask them down in the comment section below. Trying to get a lot of theory crafting going for Druid. I think a lot of people were a little underwhelmed by Druid in the betas, but I can see some very, very good endgame builds for Druid. Not just for Druid, but compared to all the other classes. Druid is looking extremely, extremely strong at endgame, barring any nerfs coming to it. So I'm really liking Druid. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you ask them. I'd love to answer them and talk about Druid some more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.